Hello, my cutie. Okay, I'm back. Sorry. Hello, my cuties. How y'all doing today? Hope you're doing good. Hope you're having a fabulous day. Now, I know it's been a while since you've seen this lovely face. My computer's still right now. Probably a couple weeks before I get back up and running. So I'm on my tablet. So if the video is kind of sorry. And excuse getting playing in the background. Now, today's video is the most brutal medieval monarchs. Now, comment below which one you think is the most brutal. And it's no secret the word medieval evokes negative images. But in the case of these Middle Ages monarchs, those connotations are well deserved. From callous queens to cutthroat kings and savage saints. We're going to take a look at the most brutal monarchs from medieval times who played by their own rule. So what caused such monarchical madness? Some slaughtered thousands to thousands while trying to spread Christianity and expel beliefs they disliked. Others nudged tensions between sects of Christianity along the way, resulting in a mob mentality that took lives of tens of thousands. I'm looking at my notes here. Other brutal monarchs, including a number of late medieval Italian rurals, enjoyed torturing their enemies in new and creative ways, such forcing furriers to eat hares whole, or creating mummy museums by pickling their rivals. Some kings didn't bother disguising their ambitions and just added to their going empires by taking cities after cities and slaying opponents and new subjects wholesale. Whatever reason. For taking out their lovers, friends, and enemies. Let's take a look, shall we? Genghis Khan. Royal title is Temujin, Great Khan of the Mongol Empire. His most brutal moments. While carving out a massive empire for himself that stretched across millions and millions of square miles, Genghis Khan and his nomadic Mongolians once ended an estimated 1.2 million lives while sacking a single city. That's right. Over 1 million people in only one battle. Talk about Games of Thrones there. In fact, one commentator reported that the Great Khan vanquished so many enemies that their bones formed mountains and the dirt became oily with human fat. Some of his bloodier moments include using young men as human shields and organizing mass rapes. Ugh, that is brutal. The latter event probably resulted in many children, making Genghis Khan a direct ancestor of 16 million people today. Were they brutal? Comment below. Now, and I'm going to brutalize this name. Galia Zozo. Maria Sephora. Royal title, Galizio Maria Sephora, Duke of Milan. My nose. Sorry. A master torturer and true evil mastermind. The Duke of Milan, I'm going to go sit here, once chopped off a rival's hands and ended a poacher by making him swallow an entire rabbit. This 15th century Duke of Milan came by his brutal personality. Honestly, the surname of his warlord turned noble family, Sforza, means force in Italian. Once contemporary writer recorded how the Duke of Milan, upon asking a priest how long he would reign in Milan and being told only 11 years, stuck the good father in jail with just a little bit of food. Princess! As the story goes, the man survived on these things, even getting to eat his own excrement for 12 days. Then he died. The Duke was also accused of organizing group assaults on women and dousing his own mother. Brutal? Yeah. Now, number 3 is Ferdinand I of Naples. Royal title, Ferdinand I, King of Naples. His most brutal moment. Slaying his rivals and building a museum of mummies with their remains in his palace. In the palace! Born the illegitimate son of a Spanish monarch, Ferdinand enjoyed keeping his deceased enemies around because he enjoyed the company. Once he invited some French pals, aka agents of his rivals, to the throne of Naples to dinner. After they ate, he then imprisoned others for 30 years, even shoving one guy out of a window to his demise. Some were propped up in a mock banquet at Castle Nuovo. The bodies were pickled and turned into mummies, then redressed to look lively. I said that's pretty brutal. Next is Olaf Tryggvason. His royal title, Olaf Tryggvason, King of Norway. His most brutal moment. A Viking warrior, par excellence. Olaf wasn't afraid of getting his hands dirty and bloody. When it came to slaying pagans and the treacherous, he once beheaded a slave who took out a royal rival for him. Talk about giving thanks and your gratitude. Now, in the 13th and 14th century, Olaf began to appear in poems as the slayer of a man named Rod, a determined follower of Thor. We all know Thor, the god of thunder, yes. Despite Rod's best magical efforts, legend has it that Olaf's Christian faith dominated. But when Rod refused to accept Christ, Olaf forced a snake into his mouth using a red-hot iron. The serpent went through Rod's neck and ended him. Olaf took Rod's gold, dispatched his followers that wouldn't convert, and brought those that would be baptized into his fold. I say that's brutal. Godfrey of Bouillon. Royal title, Godfrey, King of Jerusalem. His most brutal moment, the siege of Jerusalem in 1099. A French nobleman turned king of Jerusalem during the First Crusade. Godfrey, along with thousands of other men, marched on Levant and to take the land that wasn't theirs in the name of religion. During the siege of Jerusalem, the final battle for the holy city, the Franks were savage, guys, burning a number of Jews alive and trampling those seeking sanctuary. The chronicler Folk of Chartres described the scene. Indeed, if you had been there, you would have seen our feet colored to our ankles with the blood of the slain. But what more shall I relate? None of them were left alive. Neither women nor children were spared. That's pretty brutal, too. But I say Olaf is taking the cake right now as being the most savage. Right now. Try to control my hair. Next, we have Henry the Fifth? The Fourth? I don't know. Of England. Henry the Fifth. Henry the Fifth. I don't know. 4 or 5. Yeah. Of England and defender of the faith. His most brutal moment. Arguably still a medieval monarch on the edge of the Renaissance. Henry V did some pretty awful things, but 5, 6, 7, 8. Henry VIII. Sorry, Henry VIII. Probably his worst misdeed was engineering the demise of two of his 6 wives, Anne Boleyn and Catherine Howard. Henry burned a number of heretics at the stake, including his own friend Sir Thomas More. Really? That's a Game of Thrones thing right there. Although Henry himself didn't lead his forces at the Battle of Flodden in 1513, this conflict was a tragedy, guys, for the invading Scots, including Henry's own brother-in-law, James, who perished there, along with an estimated 10,000 soldiers. By this time, his bloodthirsty ways had truly become a family affair. Somewhat brutal. John of England. Royal title, John, King of England. His most brutal moments, guys. And shall we count the ways? The youngest son of the famously energetic King Henry II and his crusading duchy ruined bride, Eleanor of Aquitaine. John lived up to neither of his parents' legacies. Neither of them. Might as well. Yeah. Although the English did get the Magna Carta from him, John wasn't a fan of his subjects. He locked 22 knights in a castle and starved them until they perished. John also betrayed his older brother, King Richard the Lionheart. Robin Hood, who was on a crusade by rebelling against him. John may also have arranged for the slaying of his nephew Arthur of Brittany. Finally, he made an enemy of one of his French vassals by taking the man's bride-to-be. That's pretty brutal. Yeah. Scale of 1 to 10, probably 6. Next is Edward the First of England, coming in at number 8. His royal title, Edward the First, King of England, aka Long Shanks, for his height. He was 6 feet 2 inches, so that was kind of, I guess, tall for that. So, his brutal moment, putting his enemies' relatives in cages and hanging them in castle towers. Edward the First of England was also called Hammer of the Scots for his decisive victories against his northern neighbors. And he wasn't keen on Scotland getting its independence. So when Robert the Bruce decided he was the rightful king of the Scots and struck out on his own, Edward struck back, taking his female relatives and close friends captive. Bruce's sister, Mary, and close friends Isabel, Countess of Buchan, were both held in cages, which were then placed in castle turrets in England. Bruce's own daughter Marjorie, was initially kept in a cage in the Tower of London before being sent to a convent. James II of Scotland. Royal title, James II, King of Scotland. Most brutal moment, the Black Dinner, which inspired the Red Wedding on Game of Thrones. We know that one. He got what he deserved. I mean, come on. Young James and his guardians were frustrated with the Douglas family, one of the most powerful noble clans in Scotland, uprising much of his power. So, Lord Crichton, guardian of Edinburgh Castle, invited a bunch of the royal enemies, mostly from the Black Douglas branch of the titular family, to a dinner on November 24th, 1440. Good luck. After dinner, quite a few nobles were mercilessly ended. Needless to say, the relationship between the king and the nobles didn't improve after that. Now, if I'm thinking the red on the dinner deal, if it's regarding the prince's death, yeah, that he deserved that. If it's regarding Rob's death and his mother, no. And the wife, no. And I'm glad Arya got him in the end. Coming at number 10 is Donna Isabel de Castilla, Queen Isabella. Royal title, Isabella, the first Queen of Castle in Aragon. Her most brutal moment. Yes, it's a she. It's a she this time, guys. See, I'm so excited. Along with her husband Ferdinand, Isabella brought about the beginning of the Spanish Inquisition, completed the Reconquista, expelling Jews and Moors in the process, and sent out explorers like Christopher Columbus to conquer the New World. Only officially ended in the 19th century. The Inquisition forcibly converted and exiled hundreds of thousands of non-Christians, fostering vitriol and racial prejudice for centuries. Together, Isabella and Ferdinand were known as the Catholic Monarchs, and forcibly unifying Spain under one religion. This mad marital match made the Catholic Church a huge presence in their country for centuries to come. I'd say that's pretty brutal. But still, Olaf is number one to me. They should put Olaf as number one. I should put it on. Yeah. Next is Ethelred the Unready. World title: Ethelred II Unread. The Unready are bad counsel. King of England. His most brutal moment. On November 13th, 1002, Ethelred II, tired of centuries of Viking attacks from the north and fearful of their expansion southward, ordered that all the Danes in his kingdom be slaughtered. Ooh, he might be coming as number one, guys. He might be coming as number one. In my book, at least. But Olaf still takes the cake. This tragedy, called the St. Brice's Day Massacre, survived in popular imagination as an example of tyranny at its worst. But the specifics were forgotten. That is, until recently, when two mass graves of dozens of young men were uncovered. The demise of these undefended men can be dated to around the time of Ethelred's reign. Whether or not these individuals were Danes, don't know. But we do know that the Danes' defeat was avenged in 1013, when King Sweyn of Denmark invaded England and Ethelred fled to Normandy. Chicken. Next is Andronikos Komnenos. Now, his royal title, Andronikos Komnenos, Emperor of Byzantium, capitalizing on international chaos and inciting the massacre of the Latins. In the latter half of the 12th century, forces in Byzantium were split down in two lines between Empress Dowager Maria of Antioch and their arch rival Andronikos Komnenos. I'm trying, guys, these names. When Andronikos entered Byzantium, he encouraged problems between two other camps. Troublemaker. The Catholics, aka the Latins, and Eastern Orthodox Christians in the city. As a result, tensions erupted in 1182, which resulted in a wholesale massacre of the Catholic faction. Up to 60,000 perished, resulting conflagration. Way to go, dude. Way to go. Next is Charlemagne. His royal title: Charles the Great, Holy Roman Emperor, King of the Franks. Charlemagne was constantly at war, guys. Constantly at war. But his most brutal moment came at the massacre of Verdun in 782. The Royal Frankish Annals record Charles slaughtering 4,500 pagan Saxons after their nobles refused to hand over their leader, Widukind. Charlemagne's forces, including some of his best men, had previously lost the Battle of Suntel, and Widukind and his men, as the story goes, Charlemagne retaliated by slaying thousands of Saxon men all in one day. All in one day. It's worth nothing noting that Wittgenstein escaped, though he surrendered and converted to Christianity 3 years later. Coming in at number 14, guys. Who do you think is the most brutal so far? Comment below. I'm still thinking Olaf. Robert II of France. His royal title, Robert II, King of France, aka the Franks. His most brutal moment. Perhaps the first monarch to burn heretics. Robert II was called the Pious, but he might as well have been dubbed the Brutal. In 1022, Robert ordered several individuals burned alive in the city of Orleans. These heretics, hunted out by an undercover spy, supposedly belonged to an orgy-obsessed cult that worshipped demons and killed babies. Robert actually had them burned alive. Yeah, it's pretty brutal. William the Conqueror. His royal title, William I, King of England, Duke of Normandy. A fierce warrior and the first Norman king of England, William the Conqueror made his name by taking Albion at the Battle of Hastings in 1066. However, he had quite the reputation already as the Duke of Normandy in France and as an abuser. When William sought the hand of a particularly high-born woman named Matilda, she rebuffed him, guys. She gave him the hand like, no, ain't gonna happen, no. Saying she was too good for a beep. Legend has it that he dragged her around by her hair until she agreed to marry him. As the illegitimate son and young heir of Duke Robert I, William faced attempts on his life and coups from an early age, but he turned that into motivation and consolidated his own power. William crushed multiple rebellions in Normandy, then turned to England. Perhaps as many as 10,000 men, guys. Both Saxon and Norman perished in the Battle of Hastings, and William kept a tight grip on his conquests from then on. I'd say that's pretty brutal. You drag somebody around by the hair? Yeah. Okay, guys. And last, but certainly not least, is Olga of Kiev. Royal title, Olga, Saint Olga. She became a saint, guys. Princess of Kiev. Most brutal moment. Although she was later canonized for bringing Christianity to Russia, Olga, wife of Prince Igor of Kiev, also ended many who agreed with her beliefs. Now, this 10th century princess was a regent for her son. Then she persecuted a group called the Drevilians, whose members had ended her husband and wanted to marry her off to their own prince. Olga did away with the Drevilian ambassadors in a number of different ways. But one of the most brutal was when she got them drunk before locking them in a bathhouse and setting the building on fire. So, guys, what do you think, or who do you think was the most brutal? I'm thinking Olga and Olaf were the most brutal to me. Leave the comments below, let me know. And don't forget to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and hit the notification bell so you know when my videos go up. Love you guys. Wishes and hugs. Bye.